Hello and welcome to the Google Analytics Migration Series. We're live on YouTube to answer your questions about the upcoming migration. All right, today's topic is all about tagging. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna watch a video overview of tagging. We'll go through a demo on how to set up your tagging. And then we'll come back here for your questions live. So if you have any questions, go to the form that's in the description of this video, fill that out, and we'll get them on the list to be answered either today or on another day during the series throughout the week. Also, don't forget that we have a community of Google Analytics users on Discord. You can find a link to that in the description of this video as well. All right, let's go ahead and dive into the pre-recorded demo, and then we'll be back here for live Q&A right after. Hello and welcome. I'm Matt Landers, and today is day 2 of a week-long series to help you migrate from Universal Analytics to Google Analytics 4. Today will help you make sure your website is tagged to begin measuring user interactions in your GA4 property. If you missed day 1, you can find it linked in the description below, so you can start there if you still need to create a GA4 property. Or if you don't know what that means and you need more information, then start with day 1. Now, once you have your GA4 property, you're ready to set up data collection. When we talk about tagging your website, we're talking about the snippet of code that you or your web developer adds to your website. There are a few options for how to do this, but either way, we'll start in Analytics. Open up your GA4 property, and remember you can find it either from the property selector in the top left or from your original UA property in Admin, GA4 Setup Assistant, and then go to your GA4 property. Once you're in your GA4 property, go to Admin and under the Property column, click Data Streams. Data streams are essentially the flow of data from your website or app to Analytics. There are 3 types of data streams: Web, iOS, and Android. If you're coming from a UA property, you probably want to measure your website. But you should know that if you have an app, you can add another data stream for the app within the same property and have all your reporting in one place. If you were here with us yesterday, you probably already have a data stream here, a web stream. You might have even been able to reuse the existing tags. If you did, then you likely don't need to take any action on today's video, but you can stick with us and validate that your data is flowing and join the Q&A at the end. If you don't already have a web stream here, I'll show you quickly how you can add one. Click Add Stream, and then fill out your details. Now going back, once you have a web stream row, click it. This dialog slides out and shows you the web stream details. Now here's a few things to highlight. First, up top, you'll see a stream name and a measurement ID. This measurement ID is the unique identifier for your data stream. It starts with G- and is followed by a bunch of numbers. You use this ID to measure user activity in Analytics. If you use a website builder or a CMS that has Google Analytics integration, it might ask you for a measurement ID. This is that ID. If you manage the code for your website, you can grab the full snippet down at the bottom and view tag instructions. Click Install manually and paste the snippet into your website right after the head element. If you use a CMS or a website builder like WordPress or Shopify, you may be able to log in from Analytics to set up tagging that way. You can see if your CMS is supported by starting from the web stream details page, click View Tagging Instructions, and then you'll see Install with a website builder or CMS. You can either plug in your website URL and scan to see what it finds, or you can look through the list of supported platforms and you can click here to see them all. If yours is here, you can go ahead and select it to log in and set up your tag without any coding changes. Finally, you can use Google Tag Manager. Tag Manager allows you to configure all your tags, including your third-party tags like Facebook and LinkedIn. I highly recommend using Tag Manager as it allows you to make changes to your tagging without changing your website after the initial setup. We're not going to go over it here, but I have some tutorials that you can check out if you're interested. They're linked in the description. You can always upgrade to Tag Manager in the future. So that's your tagging information and steps. There are a few options here, and your own personal best choice and instructions will vary. So we'll put resources on tagging, including the help articles and video tutorials in the description. Now, the other important thing on this web stream details page is enhanced measurement. Enhanced measurement is a feature that lets you measure user interactions on your website without requiring coding changes. We recommend leaving this enabled. Last, for today, we're going to turn on Google Signals. This is an advertising feature that lets you get more rich, shared information between Google Analytics and Google Ads. To turn this on, go to Google Analytics Admin, click Data Settings, and then click Data Collection. Here, you can see a summary of the feature, so read that. And when you're ready to proceed, click Getting Started. You'll see a summary of the powerful benefits here, and click Continue and then Activate. We'll get more into advertising later in the week, but for today, that wraps up all the data settings that we'll cover. So let's go back to the Setup Assistant. Here's how. Go to the Admin and then find Setup Assistant in the Property column. Now you can check off the first two items by clicking the arrow at the end of the row. I'm going to go to Data Collection, and next to Collect Website and App Data, I'll click the arrow that says Mark as Complete. Then I'll go down to the next row for turning on Google Signals, and I'll go to the arrow and mark it as complete. Now each of these rows has been updated, and our progress bar is progressing. Each row has a green check to let you know that you're done, and it also gives you an actual dynamic summary of your property status at the moment. You'll see that even though I marked the first row as complete, no data is showing in the reports. Google Analytics takes 24 to 48 hours to process your data for reporting, so wait a day for your reports to update. Although you will see data in your real-time report immediately, which is a great way to verify that your tagging is configured correctly. Once the tag is set up and people are using your website, this row should update. We'll put a link down below with more information to help you make sure that you're collecting data from your website. So we did it. We made our first tag, we enabled a few settings, and we validated that our data collection is working. All right, let's jump into the Q&A and I'll get to your tagging questions.
3, 2, 1.
All right, welcome back to the live Q&A. Hopefully that gave you a good overview of how to get your tagging set up. And now let's dive into the questions that have been coming in. All right, let's see. For the first question, when UA stops processing the data, what will happen to GA4 properties that are connected to UA that receive UA events? Will GA4 stop receiving data? So GA4 is not receiving UA events. It's just being forwarded events that were already configured for UA. So your data will continue to process under GA4. One important note here is to make sure that you do not delete your UA property and to make sure your connected tag settings are the same. So you don't need to mess with anything. If you're set up and you're getting data into GA4, when the deprecation date comes, you do not need to do anything to continue to get events in GA4. All right, let's jump to the next question. Let's see. So are there any special things to do if current Universal Analytics is on cross-domain settings during the migration process? So when the auto migration happens, the cross-domain settings will not be migrated for you. So you need to make sure that you go in and you configure your data stream for cross-domain, for the cross-domain settings. In the description of this video, we're going to put a link to the information on how to set up cross-domain on your property. So check that out. But you just need to go in there and configure the domains in your data stream, and then that will automatically start happening for you. What will happen is that we will process the links, GTag will, and we'll put a query parameter at the end of those that will allow that cross-domain session transfer to happen. All right, let's jump into the next question. All right, so will the GA Universal deprecation be postponed? Great question. It will not. The date is quickly approaching, less than a month away. So if you have not migrated by then the data will stop processing on your Universal Analytics account. So it's really important that you get migrated. Now there's a caveat. If you're a 360 customer, you'll have an extra year in order before you need to migrate, which means that if you're on a standard property, a free property, then that date is coming in the next few weeks. So make sure you get migrated. All right, so to the next one. Okay, so this one is very special to me. I've been working on this since I came to Google, just trying to build up a community around Google Analytics. So we have started a Discord server a few months back where me and my team are monitoring that and getting people to join. We have almost 3,000 people in the Discord server now. This is our Google Analytics community, where we have community members that ask questions and other community members are answering those questions for each other. And then my team will also jump in and answer questions whenever we can. But definitely join the Discord server, come in, join the community, ask your questions. We'd love to get your feedback as well and let you know where the gaps are in our documentation or any features that you are looking for. So you can join that by clicking the link in the description of this video, and I look forward to seeing you there. Excited. Glad we got that question. All right, let's see what's next. Okay, let's see. So my UA data is not showing on my GA4 property. What do I do? So the data models between, we did answer this yesterday, but I'll go ahead and reiterate it because I think we're probably going to get this question daily. But essentially the data models between Universal Analytics and Google Analytics 4 are completely different. While they do share some dimensions and metrics and there's some similarities, it's a completely different platform that has been built from the ground up for privacy-centric measurement. So with that said, that means that we can't just move your data from UA to GA4. So you won't be able to be in the GA4 interface and see your UA data. But your UA property will continue to exist and you'll be able to access that data for at least the next 6 months after the hit stop processing. And we have different mechanisms for you to be able to get that historical data out either into Google Sheets or into BigQuery. And we'll have a link in the description on some information on how to do that, but you'll be able to save that data so you can reference it in the future as well. But you cannot get your UA data into your GA4 property. All right, let's get to the, let's see what we got next here. All right, most of our numbers are close between internal tracking, UA and GA4. We are mostly using gtag.js via Angular. Are there any trapdoors we should worry about? So if your numbers are pretty close, and they shouldn't match exactly because how the counting is different between Universal Analytics and GA4. We have an entire Help Center article on how those numbers are counted and how they're counted differently, which we'll link in the description as well. But if you are using a framework like Angular, there might be some things that you want to look out for. For instance, if you're doing any client-side navigation, then you may need to trigger page view events and navigation events via gtag.js. And depending on the framework that you're using, so this isn't just for Angular, it's for any JavaScript framework. If your JavaScript is doing the navigation, then there may be some extra work you need to do. I know that in React, there's a React GA component that will do a lot of this for you. And then for cross-domain settings, if your links, whether they're going to another domain, that could there could be a conflict there where the query parameter isn't being appended to the URL, which GTag will take care of that for you normally, but your framework could interfere with that. So you might want to check that as well. But it'll be different for every JavaScript framework. So I would look into the framework that you're using, join the community, ask other community members that are using the same framework, and see if anybody's run into any issues there. But if your numbers are pretty close, then you probably are good to go. All right, thanks for that question. That's a good one. All right, next question is there any part of the process that cannot be fixed or reversed that we need to look out for? So your setup can always be changed in the future. If you end up having your property migrated automatically for you, then we might migrate some things that maybe you didn't want to migrate. Maybe you didn't want certain audiences or certain conversions to migrate over to GA4. If you delete those, then it's possible that the name of those will be reserved and you won't be able to use that in the future. But you can make any change after you've already been set up. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. So I'd say that there's nothing that can't be reversed outside of maybe some naming conflicts, but those can always be worked around as well. All right. Thanks for that. Let's see. Okay, for our next question, when UA stops collecting data, do we need to do anything to the connected GA4 property to separate them? Or will they keep working as intended? All right, so this is similar to an earlier question, and no, you don't need to do anything here. Everything is just going to continue to keep working. Don't delete your old property, especially if you want that historical data, and keep all your settings the same so that the data continues to flow into Google Analytics 4. And again, that data will be available for you for at least the next 6 months within UA, and there are other ways to get that data out for historical reference in the future as well, which we'll link in the description. Very popular question. All right, let's get to the next question. Although I think everything is fine, every day when I start Google Analytics for real-time analytics, a timer appears with the warning, no data will be processed in this property after July 1st, 2023. So if you're seeing that message, and it's that message specifically that data is going to stop processing, then that means that you're not in your GA4 property and you are in your Universal Analytics property, so your old property. So just make sure whenever you're logging into analytics that you're selecting the correct property. If it's been created for you, it'll have -GA4 at the end of it. And if you created it yourself, it's whatever you named it. But if you are seeing that message, then that means that you're in a Universal Analytics property, and you can go look at the real-time report in Google Analytics 4 to see that in your new property. All right. So for the next question, will there also be a topic for enhanced e-commerce setup in GA4? We're not going to cover enhanced e-commerce in this series, but there is a very extensive Help Center article on the differences between Universal Analytics and Google Analytics 4 for e-commerce. The data models are different, so you will have to make some changes to your tagging and how purchase events come through, checkout, add to cart, those kind of things. We are planning to create some content around this in the future for Google Analytics 4, but right now we have the Help Center article that should show you everything you need to do in order to get migrated from UA to GA4 for e-commerce. But that is a bit of a more complex subject that we're not going to dig into this week, since this is more of a covering the basics of getting migrated. All right. Let's see, this might be our last question, or maybe I see some more coming in. Let's see. All right, so if I use subdomains, then will those each be one data stream? Thank you so much. All right, so if your subdomains are meant to be part of the same session, so let's say that you have an offers.mywebsite.com, and they might go from the offers site over to your main website, and you want that to count as the same session, then you want to use the same data stream. In general, I would say most setups only need one data stream for your website, and then you'll have a different data stream for each app, your iOS or Android, if you have those. But for typical websites, you're only going to want one data stream. Now, if you have websites that are completely different, those users have nothing to do with each other, they'll never go from one site to the next, and you're not worried about that, then it may make sense for you to have multiple data streams, but more than likely, you're going to be good with just one data stream. All right, let's see if we have others that we're going to answer here. All right, we do. So if a site using GA4 migrates from HTTP to HTTPS, would we expect that to impact analytics at all? Would it break reporting identities or identity resolution? There should be no problem going from HTTP to HTTPS. That shouldn't affect anything in your reporting or anything like that. There's a lot of sites where you could hit HTTP or HTTPS and your analytics will continue to work that way. So that should be fine. All right, let's see. I think, we have another question. Let's see what we have here. We have multiple verticals on the same website. How do we monitor their performance without multiple views? Okay, this is a good question. So if you have different verticals and you want to separate that in your reporting so that you can look at them differently, like maybe you have some users are going to go to one product, some users are going to go to another product. You can actually just use filters in the reporting and filter only on that one particular product that you're looking at. So all of the different reports throughout and GA4, you can create that filter and then use that on the different reports, and it'll filter out the data only to that one thing that you're trying to look at. And then if you are a GA360 customer, there are some additional features that we have, like roll-up and sub-properties, but those are only available to the customers who pay for Google Analytics, and those are different features that are more enterprise ready there. All right, I think that might be all the questions that we have for today. Is there more? No more? Okay. All right, yeah, so that's all the questions that we have for today. That was a lot of questions that we had come through. If we didn't get to your question today, then we'll try to get it in one of the other days this week, and continue to submit your questions. If we don't get to them in the live Q&A at all this week, then we will try to answer them within the Discord server. So make sure you join the community. I'm really excited how much that's growing, and we have a lot of plans for that in the future. So definitely join the community, ask your questions, make sure you're getting your setup right and ready for July 1st when the sunset happens, so that you're ready on GA4 to continue to get your analytics and to process your data. All right, so now we're going to go over to our schedule and see what's up for the rest of the week. So yesterday and today we covered creating our property and setting up tagging. Tomorrow we're going to look at understanding our events and getting our conversion set up. So in Universal Analytics we had goals, and now we have conversion events. We're going to look at how we can migrate those. And then on Thursday, we'll look at migrating our audiences. And on Friday, we'll cover everything else. We'll cover ads linking, user access, and any remaining Q&A that we have in our backlog. So thank you for joining. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and answering more of your questions. And go out there, get your GA4 set up, and happy measuring.